Well, growing up, you struggle and you just don't fit in that much. One day, you somehow end up at an animal shelter and you spend time with all the animals there and you realize this really fits for you. So you just keep coming back and you see in the animals their possibilities, not the sad things, the positive things. You even write them notes telling them how really special they are. Now, fast forward a bit, you finish school and you join the working force, but none of the jobs you work at really give you a purpose. Now, you're still going to shelters and spending time with these animals. Lee Asher, he joins me today, and you probably know of him from social media, Animal Planet's My Pack Life, or you've probably maybe even seen him speak. Lee found his purpose, and boy, did he find his purpose. Now, just think about this. You decide to buy an RV, and by the way, at this point, you have a pack of dogs. Then you make a plan to visit all the other animal shelters to help them and find homes for all their animals. You organize events, and you do whatever it takes to make it happen. Now, when I say other shelters, I mean you travel to 49 states and then all across Canada. Your social media presence grows exponentially so you can really get the word out. Then COVID happens. So what do now? You keep moving forward. You'd always plan a sanctuary for animals, so you just figure it out. And lo and behold, ASHER House goes from an idea to reality. Today, ASHER House is roughly 240 acres for these dogs to live in their very best lives. Now, this is an episode about somebody following their passion and bringing joy, freedom, and happiness for his best friends. It's an amazing story, and I can't wait for you to hear Lee walk us through his journey and some of his new plans for the future. This is an episode about love and resilience.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and games from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Markakyle.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the For Real podcast. I can't wait for today. I've got a great guy for you to meet, Lee Asher. Lee, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people out there know who you are, but for the people that don't know who you are, after we get done today, they're going to be really wanting to wish they had known you longer than they have. So I just want to dig in. I know you've done all these different things, but I'm going to let you tell your story. Let's talk about you when you were younger. You know, I read some stuff about when you used to go to the animal shelter and all that stuff in the notes. Let's just go there. You tell your story and let's just get out there so people get to know you.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Lee Asher. I started the ASHER House. I founded the ASHER House back in 2017 when I was living in California at the time. But my journey and my story starts in Florida. I grew up in Florida. I was born in New York, but I grew up in Florida. And I had a lot of challenges as a child. You know, my parents were quite dysfunctional. They fought like crazy. They were very just very angry people and very focused on themselves. Um, some would say quite narcissistic. My upbringing just felt very unsafe at home, but I also felt quite unsafe at school. I was a very skinny kid. I was very shy and insecure, and I had severe learning disabilities. I had really, really bad ADHD, and it was just very hard for me to focus and to get tasks done and to accomplish assignments. So I was in special education classes, and you know, where all the popular kids and the athletes and all the quote unquote normal children, all the normal kids, they were in these regular classes with anywhere from 20 to 30 kids in a class. And I was in these classes that only had anywhere between 4 to 8 kids in a class. And I experienced a lot of bullying. It was really bad. I would get picked on a lot, and I would even get physically beaten quite a bit. And um, I just felt very lost and very misunderstood. I always felt very alone. and it was just a challenge for me to simply exist. I didn't know what my why I was alive. I didn't know what my purpose was. Not that many people do at a young age, but I couldn't even make friends. I had no groups of people to go to hang out with. And after a really tough day of being bullied one day, I ran away from school, and it was, one of the best decisions of my life. It kind of set me up for where I am now, because when I ran away, I wound up at an animal shelter a couple miles from school, and I was hooked. I was going there almost every day during recess, and that was the beginning of me finding my passion and my purpose. I ended up going to animal shelters as much as I could growing up, and even when I went to school, when I went to college, I was going to animal shelters, and it was really, it was really my safe place. It really saved me, and as I got older, I, had a kind of like when I was a kid, I just had a very difficult time finding people that I felt I aligned with. I had a very, very challenging time finding my purpose. There were no jobs, when I was graduating college, all the kids some wanted to be attorneys, some wanted to become a doctor, they were going to get into real estate and work for their parents. And they had a trust fund they were going to be able to get into investing. I had none of that. There was nothing. I had no desire. To do anything other than to be with animals, and I wanted to help people.
Hey, Lee, an article I read about you, and I want to stay where we are, but I want to go back in time just a little bit. So when you were going there,
Mhm.
one of the articles I read about you is that you would write notes to the dogs, telling them that well, you tell them if that's a true story, it's internet, but if that's a true story, tell you about that, and then just jump back to where we were, because I think it really tells a lot about who you are now.
Yeah, when I first started, that was the very first animal shelter I'd ever been to, the one that I kind of ran away to the very first time, and I started going there quite frequently. And I would take these note cards from the school, and I would write the dogs these little love letters. I would say that one day I'm going to save you and I love you. And in fact, one day, there was this woman who worked at the front who was always really kind to me and always greeted me with open arms. And one day when I got to the animal shelter, she was really mad at me, and she had this like energy that I could tell I was in trouble. And she said, you have to stop writing the dogs these note cards. You have to. And I said, I'm not. I didn't write any note cards. And she said, we know it's you because they're shitting them out all over the place.
Oh my God.
And we opened one up, and it says your name on the back of it. So I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
so I literally got caught red-handed pretty much, and that was the end of my poetry, my novelty to the dogs. But yeah, I used to write them note cards every day. It was these little notes. It was really beautiful.
So when it came out that way and you were telling, she said, "See, you are full of it."
Yeah, and I was like, I'm sorry, I won't do it anymore, and all was forgiven.
Oh, of course. I mean,
But that was true. I used to write them note cards, and I used to promise them that one day I would save them, not knowing that it was really going to happen that way.
your destiny. So, anyways, you're now getting out of college and figuring out what you're going to do. I'm sorry. By the way, I should apologize right away. I bounce all over the place. My mind bounces. So if I go off, I misdirect you. It's not on purpose. It's just how I think.
It makes it easier for me when you manage a couple hundred dogs. Your mind tends to bounce quite a bit as well. So I can appreciate it. I had quite a few different jobs. I was a janitor at one point. I worked for a motivational speaker for a couple of years. I got a great opportunity from my mentor who owned a finance company, and I got into finance. I just had no idea what I was doing. Anytime I had a job, I felt like I added zero value
Right.
to the company, to the organization, because it was really hard for me to like understand what I was supposed to do, of how I added value, and I wanted to make a difference. I didn't just want to like exist. I wanted to thrive and really make a difference in anything that I did. And then eventually, I started going to the animal shelters a lot more, and I was making videos at the animal shelters. This is when social media and Instagram first started getting, quite popular, and I started really sharing these dogs that I was meeting, and I was sharing them differently than the way most people talked about these dogs, where most people would talk about how sad the story was, and they would make it all depressing and really only focus on the negative, right?
Right.
I didn't talk about the dog's story at all. I would give the dog a character. I would give them this strong name, and I would make it fun and entertaining, and I would show how beautiful the dog is and all the value that the dog could bring to a home and to your life. And it was really this kind of positive spin on it, and people were really responding to it.
You're marketing to dogs. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I had no idea. Yeah, and the shelters were like, "Hey, you won't believe this. That dog just got adopted." And my social media following was growing, and I as soon as my social media started growing, I got hooked because I was like, look, I have an audience.
Yeah.
This is someone who I could never get up to speak. I didn't say my first word till I was almost 4 years old. Like I never thought I would have an audience, but I so badly always wanted an audience because I wanted to help change people's lives. Like I was very passionate about that. So now I had this small audience of, started off as 1,000 people, then 5,000, then 10,000. And once I got to 10,000, I started getting interviewed a lot, and other well-known social media handles like the Dodo was sharing my story and interviewing me. And it really just started to grow and grow. And I took the bait. I said, like, this is obviously something that I'm really passionate about. It was the first time in my life where I felt very excited and I felt very motivated. It was a dream come true, and I needed to find a way to make it my job. I needed to find a way to make it my purpose and my mission, and that's why I created the Asher House. I decided that people were always talking about animal rescue without ever actually going to shelters and showing the dogs.
Right.
Like I so many times when I would talk about the shelter that I was at, people who, were so uh motivated to get dogs adopted or to talk about animal rescue wouldn't even go to the shelter because they said it was too sad. And for me, it was never a sad place.
I've never thought that. That's weird.
No, I mean, I don't, it's quite common. A lot of people, it makes sense, especially extremely empathetic people. They go to a shelter and they see these dogs who want to get out and they can't help them, and it breaks their heart. It makes sense. But for me, I was like, yeah, but if we don't go and do this, they're going to be here even longer. Like, let's do what we can. And I decided that I was going to quit my job, which I did. I had 6 dogs at the time, and I bought an RV, and I traveled around the entire country. And my mission was to show everyone all of the amazing, beautiful dogs that were waiting inside of animal shelters, waiting to get adopted.
Pause for a second because I want to get into how you came up with that idea because that's a big idea. And say, okay, you know what? You didn't just say one day. Say, okay, I'm buying this thing and I'm just going to drive around the U.S. for a few years. How did it come about?
I think a lot of people, when they hit rock bottom, that like these ideas that sound so big to someone,
Uh huh.
you know, for me, I didn't have any other options. Like I was so depressed. I couldn't go on anymore, like with the hope that something great was just going to happen to me.
Right.
I had felt like such a failure that, I don't mean to go too dark, but there was a huge part of me that just didn't want to live. Like I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like that I wasn't adding value. And it was time for me to do something or to give up.
Right.
So that's why rock bottom can be such a beautiful place. And people, instead of sulking and becoming the victim while they're there, that could be the beginning of their story. That should be the beginning of their mission, the beginning of their journey, certainly not the end.
Right.
And you really don't know who you are unless you are faced with extreme challenges. That is the only way to find out what you're all about. And for me, the challenge was life. Like I no longer was willing to just settle and be this person who was going to be miserable forever.
Right.
You know, But the specific way of the way I thought of the idea, I was sitting. My friend, his name is Luke Barton, an amazing human being. He was parking his RV outside of my house at the time, and I was sitting in his RV with my dogs, and I was doing an Instagram live. And I remember during the live, I was looking around at the RV and seeing how comfortable all my dogs were, and I was talking to people about the importance of going to an animal shelter, like getting up and getting out there. And when people were saying, no, it's too sad, I was like, look at this. I'm in an RV. I can bring my dogs with me because that's often a challenge, right? We don't want to leave our dogs behind. So I was like, I can do something where I can travel in my home, basically, which would be the RV with my dogs and show people all of these amazing dogs. So it all just kind of clicked. Like I remember I had the idea, and by the next day I was getting to work on it.
So when you did this, the finance, and I'm assuming now at this point you build a big enough crowd and you were a little bit of an influencer, so you were generating some kind of income to be able to do that. How did that work?
So I had no money at the time.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I'd never really started anything. I wasn't very good at managing my finances, so I didn't have much money. I had I when you're I was 20. At this time I was 26. So when you're 26 years old, you don't have a high paying job and you have six dogs,
Right.
like all your money goes to them, you know? So I wasn't killing it, as they say. I wasn't killing. But I really had the passion and I had a great idea and I had the drive. And I think when you have those things and you're 100% focused, you're going to figure it out.
Right.
Like when your why is big enough, the how will show up. And my why was certainly big enough. And I was lucky because Luke, the guy that whose RV it was, when I was trying to figure out how to make the money, he suggested that I start a Kickstarter campaign.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And I started a Kickstarter, and it helped me reach the goal to be able to afford the RV.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go with the trip. So now you go on the trip and talk to everybody so they know exactly what you're. I know you were going to rescues, but kind of give them a description of what the trip was other than just a trip, because that wasn't what you were doing. You were with your dogs going to see rescues, right?
Shelters specifically. Yeah. I mean, it was extraordinary. Like looking back at it, nothing like it had ever been done. No one knew who I was. I mean, now, and I say this with the utmost of gratitude. Like there's not many shelters out there or rescues who don't know who the Asher House is.
Right. That's cool.
At the time, one of the most difficult things about this idea was getting the shelters to allow me to go there. Like they had no idea
Really?
who yeah, man. Because I didn't only want to film a video. I wanted to create an experience. I wanted to get people to come to the shelter, right?
Right.
So I would have an adoption event. So it was an adoption event and a meet and greet, and I wanted this to be like an experience for people. So a lot of shelters just weren't interested, and it was really difficult when shelters weren't interested, which was quite often in the beginning. Towards the end, it was a lot easier, but in the beginning when shelters weren't interested, I would actually have to like ask a bar or a restaurant to allow me to have an event, and I would tell people to bring adoptable dogs.
Oh, cool. That's way cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
And so I love this story, actually. I think it's an amazing story. So, and first of all, I love adventure. So it's a big adventure, and you're taking your dogs with you. So the dogs got to go on the adventure, and then you're going out and really educating people about shelters, which is really cool. Because I mean, you were doing it when you were a kid, when you were creating the superhero dog or whatever you were doing back then. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and what's really cool about it, is like the amount that it did that I didn't know it was going to have that effect. So now, many people like have a lot of limiting beliefs that about traveling with their dogs. And here I am traveling the entire country and all of Canada in its entirety with six dogs. And towards the end of my travels, because I adopted along a lot of dogs along the way, I had 11 dogs in this RV, and I really showed people what was possible, and now, and I take credit for this, and I am very proud of it. It's like so many people are doing that kind of thing now.
Oh, they are.
Oh yeah, there's all this van life, and there's all these. I mean, many people that I had come across who were, very much involved in animal rescue but couldn't find their way are now doing very similar things where they're on the road. A lot of them are traveling through Mexico in an RV and rescuing dogs off the street. And we really set the tone of what was possible.
That's wild. I know a lot of people did it, but I never really thought about it, it that way. That's really cool.
Really cool, man. Like we really showed like if I could do it, myself with all these dogs, people really just started doing it. It was really incredible. And not only that, we inspired so many people to just travel, to get out there, to live their life. I had never done anything like that. I mean, I had only been to 10 or 15 states before starting the Asher House. And then I'm in all these beautiful states all over the country, all these cities, and I'm able to educate people of its beauty. And I think, one of the things that I learned is really just how beautiful America is. Like we travel all over the world to try to find the best beaches or the best scenery when like that's fine. We should travel. I would encourage anyone to travel, but also see what's in your backyard. Go explore it because we have the most beautiful forests and the most beautiful deserts and just some amazing places like right here in the USA.
Well, let me ask you a question. So when you were doing this thing, and there's a method to my madness here. So sometimes, not always, by the way. So when you decided you pack up the RV, you start going to a shelter. Um, where'd you go? Arizona, or where'd you go? What was your first place you went?
Well, I was living in California, so I did all of California first.
And so did you go north, or what'd you do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went from LA to San Francisco and then San Diego. We kind of zigzagged a little bit, but yeah, and then Arizona.
So I got the question I have for you is this: is so when you're doing that, you really did you have an agenda? Like you didn't have a big plan, like you get to whatever the location, let's say San Diego,
Uh-huh.
and you're there and you're doing that, and you say, okay, you just kind of see where the wind blows and say, okay, I heard about the shelter in Blythe, California,
Uh-huh.
and you just head that way. Is that what you did? How you did it, or did you have a kind of a grand plan?
No, no. Before I like officially left uh Los Angeles, I wanted to have, more than half of it mapped out. And we did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, we had more than half of it mapped out. But a lot of it, we built it as we got there.
But when you had it mapped out, did you already have a schedule, or did you kind of have your own? The reason I'm being is did you get to okay today? And I planned on going from San Diego to Temecula or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, no, it was scheduled. We couldn't just, not to interrupt, but I see what you're asking. There was nothing random to it.
Okay,
No, it was all scheduled and organized, and people had time to sign up and everything. And yeah, we could never like just change plans because there'd be a shelter waiting for us at a certain date.
sure. Well, you know what? That makes sense when I think of it. There, you had been a lot more organized than I would have been. I guarantee that for sure.
Well, the goal was to get people there. Like we wanted.
Right. Exactly.
Like I said, my goal was to get people to come to the shelter so they could be like, oh, this isn't so bad. This is actually really awesome. And maybe they'd want to spend more time at the shelters, make videos for dogs, obviously volunteer, work there, whatever it may be.
So when you called it a shelter, and I just just for for anybody that may want to do this, and you called them and you had a plan to go to wherever the shelter is, what would you? How would you explain what you wanted to do? How did that work?
I would say my name's Lee Asher. I have a social media following of, 20,000 or 30,000, whatever it got. I think by the time I was off the road, I had about 500 or 600,000.
That's crazy.
So I would explain that, and I would give them, my following for credibility, and I would just let them know what my mission is. I was like, I'd love to do an event to try to get dogs adopted at the very least. I'd love for you to introduce me to your longest residents, and I could promote them and do videos for them, and just obviously let them know the truth, which was it was really all for them and the dogs.
Right.
Like my whole outcome, like I never benefited from it, right? I benefited from it because it was accomplishing my goal for my mission, right?
And the positive experience too.
Exactly, and ultimately built the groundwork for my career and built my following. But for them, I think what was really hard for shelters to understand was I'm not receiving anything.
Right.
Like I'm not, I'm not going to get a percentage of the donations or any, like, I just want to help these dogs get adopted.
Right.
And I think for some shelters, it was hard for them to believe that, you know, because
Sure.
it's a, like, you know, a lot of times when people offer nothing but value, it can be too good to be true. So a lot of them, rightfully so, had their guard up. But you know, with a lot of them, we've created these amazing, long-lasting relationships and partnerships that are still strong today.
Yeah, well, and I would assume that, like you said, it got easier as went on. As we start building this following, people realize they could call another shelter you've been to and saying, "This guy's just got this huge heart. He's just trying to help out the animals and help us out too." That's great.
Yeah.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Walk me through the chronology. So you did it for 2 years or?
I started the campaign in 2017. And I officially, once I got the funds and I mapped everything out and we were ready to hit the road, my very first event was at the end of February of 2018. And I did it till 2020. I was on the road till 2020 because once we really took off, that's when I was like, let's do Canada. So we did all of Canada. And it eventually obviously came to an end because of COVID. When COVID happened, we could no longer do anything whatsoever
Yeah.
that I was doing. Like I couldn't have events. We couldn't go to the restaurants. I mean, there were some places that I was hearing that there was a lot of towns. I don't know if this is true or not, but it was enough to scare me that like if your license plate wasn't from that state, that you could be getting into some serious trouble. So it just felt there was a lot of uncertainty,
Wow.
and it put an end. And this, going back to my rock bottom speech, I mean, I had never been more scared or sad or depressed. Like, imagine if you're a dragon slayer, like that is your whole purpose, to save these towns from dragons, and then there's no more dragons. It's like,
And now what do I do?
exactly, you lose your identity. It's like a surfer that lives in the desert. You know, it's like I was just so lost and so scared, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And I remember just, you know, I was thinking about the things that I wanted to accomplish later on in life. It's like I started to have really difficult conversations with myself that no one else was having with me, which was, you know, how long were you going to drive the RV for? Like, what, like that, you can't do that for, let's say I went to every animal shelter in the world. Were you just going to visit them again? Like, what were you going to do? And my overall goal was to save as many animals as I could. And ultimately, eventually, my plan was to start an animal sanctuary, but I didn't feel like I was ready. And instead of letting that stop me from doing it, I fucking got ready, you know?
Right. Well, and you know what? It's, you made lemons out of lemonade, but in some ways, after doing it as long as you did and learning what everything was going on, COVID in some ways was a blessing for you in some ways because it took you where you are now, somewhat.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, I don't think.
You could be an RV right now.
Yeah, or worse. You don't know. I really don't know. But usually, like, it really taught me, like, these really terrible moments in life that we think are the end. Like, you have to understand that nothing is the end.
Right.
Like, nothing is the end unless you quit. That is the end when you say it is. But the outside circumstances cannot dictate what the end is. It's totally up to you. And that really set the precedent for the way I view struggle and all these different things, which I've never experienced more struggle or more pain than finding my purpose. Like, people so badly want to find your purpose, but living your purpose is just as difficult. Sorry for the if you hear the background noise, there's a large truck going by.
No problem.
But living your purpose and doing a good job at it, like, if you were chosen to do something great, you have to show up, man. You have to show up and not, not take it for granted and not let God or the universe, whatever you believe in, you can't let that down, because you have this responsibility that no one else can do but you, which is why you were chosen for it. And nothing is more challenging than that.
Well, I have two things to add to this. So one is, you're talking about you get to rock bottom and you pull yourself out. So I have two different things I always say. One's a sports analogy. You have to learn how to lose to learn how to win. I absolutely 100%. If you don't know how to lose, you don't know what winning is all about, and that helps you. The other thing that a philosophy that I always use whenever I've been depressed, and you sit there, you have to remind yourself, if you're still here, you've been through a lot of bad things in your life where you thought it was the worst thing ever. You have to remember back on that and say, well, if I made it this far, I'm probably going to be able to keep making it forward from here on in too, which is absolutely the way people should. When you're really depressed, you have to remember, if I'm still here, what about that time when I felt really bad about this, or I was in a really bad place and all that? I always try to remind myself if I'm in a depressed state or whatever that is. That's my preaching for the day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So let's keep going with your story. Your story is way more interesting than mine, for sure.
Yeah, I was committed. I had the idea to start the sanctuary, and like, once I had the idea, I was not I was not going to shift away from it. Like, once I said I'm going to start a sanctuary, I got all that energy and all that passion back. I sank the ships, as they say. Like, there was no other island, there was no boat for me to go to. I was going to start an animal sanctuary. I was very fortunate. I had met when I was in the RV, I was really struggling because my generator had busted, which happened a lot, and it was very hot. And this friend of mine, who was fortunate enough to donate a new generator, it created this beautiful friendship. He became one of my best friends, and he was really, like, helpful in helping me find ways to get the money. He was really, really great at being like, you should try to get a loan from this type of bank and then do this. Because, once again, I was living in an RV. I didn't really have a business. I wasn't really making a lot of money. The way I was making money in the RV was I was doing sponsorships. I was doing ads for other companies,
Sure.
and I would make a few $1,000s with each one. So I didn't really have a lot of money, but I with that money coming in, which was consistent, I had something to show for the work that I was doing. So when I would go to the banks, and my friend, he ended up giving me a loan, I was able to kind of get the money that I needed. It was very difficult, almost impossible, it felt like. But again, I never gave up on it. I was able to get the finances to put down a deposit on a house that was on 25 acres in Estacada, Oregon.
How did Oregon end up being the place, by the way?
That's what I was just going to say. And the reason why I chose Oregon is because one of the beautiful things about living in the RV is I got to travel through all these amazing states and really see the beauty. Like, I knew nothing about Oregon. Like, I've never known much about geography at all. And I remember being in Oregon thinking how crazy it is that it existed. And I'll tell you one thing though. I was there. When I drove through Oregon, we're talking prime time to travel through Oregon. Like, it was the early fall.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so beautiful. Like, so I didn't know much about the rain and all that. But and still, I don't regret choosing Oregon. I will say, if you're going to open up a sanctuary, Oregon is not the place to do it. the regulations and the way they do things, with all due respect, is it, from what I've heard. I have nothing to compare it to, but I know that a lot of the things that we deal with, other states don't have to deal with it. However, what I will say, I'm going to contradict myself now. They also, better than other states, they make sure you're doing a good job. Like our agricultural department in Oregon, despite what people like have their own opinions, because they the reason why a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about the agricultural department out here is a lot of the fees, that it costs you money to have a rescue besides the money that you're investing into the animals. So a lot of people, rightfully so in many ways, have a problem with that. But on the other hand, like they come to they go to the rescue, they go to the sanctuary, they go to the facility to make sure that you're running a legit operation, and they want and they need to get paid for that. So there's these pros and cons, because what I will say is so many states, I mean, especially California, Arizona, they have these horrible, horrible, horrible facilities that have no accountability.
Right.
Like there's these terror there. I mean, gosh, as I'm sure you know, and so many people know, I would say there's probably more people that are involved in animal rescue that should be nowhere near an animal.
Right.
Like the last thing in the world they should be doing is having an animal rescue and running a nonprofit. And unfortunately, it's easy for people to get away with that stuff in states like Arizona and California, where there's just not much accountability. So what I will say is, when it comes to Oregon, it's great that they actually like go to the facilities and make sure that everything is organized and the animals are well taken care of, and like everything that you need. So I'll leave it at that. But basically, I traveled through Oregon. I thought it was the most beautiful place in the world, where I needed land, right? I really, if you're going to have a sanctuary, you need land,
Right.
and you have to think about what the climate of where you're living. So for me, like I originally wanted Wyoming or Montana, but the problem with that is I would be dealing with the severe snow,
Right.
and like no matter where you are, you have your pros and your cons. If I wanted to go to Florida, which was an option, you're dealing with that extreme humidity and that extreme heat and the mosquitoes. Like wherever you are, you have certain issues. And for me in Oregon, the only issue at the time, which still pretty much is now, is the consistent rain. We go through a lot of towels.
Well, I know. I know.
So it's a beautiful place to live. It really is. It's so lush and green. And there's the ocean, there's the forest, there's the mountains and the snow, there's the desert. So it had it all.
Right.
And that's how I chose Oregon.
Where does is it My Pack Life fit in, and what time frame is that? Because we didn't even touch on that. Was that when you were on the road, or is that since you got Asher House?
Yeah, so My Pack Life is a TV show that we got through Discovery Channel that was featured on Animal Planet. And that's a pretty funny story, because growing up, I really loved Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. He was and always will be my hero and role model. His passion and his dedication and his knowledge. And so to be offered to be on a TV show that he, represented the network, was such an honor. But when they reached out to me, this was shortly after I was established as an animal sanctuary in Oregon. It was after only a few months. After a few months, I kind of really felt like, man, this was after a few months of starting a sanctuary. I was like, man, this was a bigger deal than I thought. Like I knew this was going to be really hard work. I knew a lot about animal shelters from visiting them. I knew somewhat about dogs from owning many, but a sanctuary is completely different. Like you have to know how to run a business, you have to know how to run a nonprofit. There are so many things that you have to know when it comes to quarantine, when it comes to fencing. Like I knew nothing. I knew nothing. I didn't know shit. And and that's a lot of pressure to not only not know anything, to also have a following who's donating and wanting you to succeed, while some are obviously wanting you to fail. And when the producers of Discovery Channel came, and they told me they wanted to do a TV show, I was very honest, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing. And they said, we know, you know, like we could tell, and we think that it's so great that you're so authentic about it. You're so
That's great.
where most animal rescuers or most people always really are, their ego speaks louder than their heart,
Right.
right? And they talk, they think they know everything, and they talk about what they know, and they're putting people down. And I was just always really focused on being honest and transparent about what I know and what I don't know, and letting people know that I'm learning as I go and I'm going to make mistakes. And that's what Animal Planet really admired. And that's why they offered to do the show with me. It's because this was a unique perspective on animal rescue that they felt that the world would crave and like to watch. And they were right. It was an extremely successful show.
What I love about this story is that I know that you had a plan and you had it all organized, but still, you came up with an idea and just created this thing, and then next thing you know, you're on a TV show, and now you've got gazillions of followers on social media, and you've got this amazing facility. I mean, what you've done is, and I'm not kissing your butt. It's just pretty amazing what you've done, and it's impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's been such a, I mean, I can't even explain the difficulties of it, but
Well, I want to get back to that story because, okay, so now you're doing this thing. You don't know where you're doing while they're filming this thing, but let's kind of still keep going on that journey to get to where you are today because you're doing all kinds of other stuff too. It's crazy.
yeah, I mean, I eventually, I feel like my first sanctuary, which was in Estacada, the 20 acres, it was it was a great place, although it was very expensive for me. Mistakes can be expensive. It was a great place for me to learn what not to do and what to do. What my vision was for an animal sanctuary, what a lot of people don't know, and I say this with respect, don't understand, there's nothing like it. Like there is nothing like it in the world. And I don't know if there ever will be. And the reason why I say that with so much confidence is because I've been to pretty much every, if there's new ones, then I haven't been to those. But when I was living in the RV, I went to every animal sanctuary that I could find in the US. And what I learned is, and I say this with so much respect because they're amazing, but for me, the sanctuary that I envisioned was all of the animals, all of the dogs at least, living together, being free to roam.
Right.
Most animal sanctuaries, when they call themselves an animal sanctuary, and again, I'm like, oof, I don't want to offend anyone because I certainly am not trying to, but they're not all together. It's basically like each dog has like their own little field, but they're not getting this mental and physical stimulation that animals need, right? But having said that, it's way better. The positives, it's way better for the dog. They're not getting euthanized. They're not living in a confined small kennel inside with a really loud environment. Like it's much better than a shelter, of course, much better. But they're still not in their natural habitat.
Right.
I wanted to create something where they can all walk together, to play, to run, this open, beautiful, free environment, right? And there's so much more risk with that. You have to be an actual fucking crazy person. Just like people always ask, what about dog fights? What about people getting bit? Like you have to, and that's why people don't do what I do.
Sure.
They're not willing to take that risk. And especially with me, it's I'm having this conversation with you right now. I'm in the field walking away from the dogs. If there's an employee that does something, not so smart at the house right now, it's me. It's my, even though she was or he was not supposed to do it. Like you have those experiences. The having the employees is, you can't do it without them. And there's some that you couldn't do it with. You have people who just completely disregard protocol, get hurt, and then blame you. So obviously, knowing the risks and all that, when someone starts an animal sanctuary, they often want to minimize all the risk. And having a group of dogs, 50, 60, 70, if you're talking about us, 150 dogs loose and out with people and other dogs, there's a lot that can go wrong. And for me, that freedom is worth it. And I've learned how to manage it. And I've learned how to kind of accept the fact that people are going to make mistakes. And it's not worth taking away that dog's freedom just because there's a few bad apples. Like for me, it's worth the risk and learning how to maintain a healthy and positive environment where the animals don't have to compete with each other and they're not fighting. And you really got to get to a place when you have this type of environment with dogs being free, of getting to the place where you can sense and feel things way before they happen. Like you start to learn this language that is completely nonverbal, where you have to know, like where I've gotten, and I say this with so much love and respect to the animal, I know how to speak dog better than dogs do. Like I could see it way before it happens, man. You know?
Couple things. One is that I bring it up all the time in the podcast, but I'm a very repetitive person, anyways. But I do think animals can sense energy, right? I absolutely 100% believe that. Dogs and little kids like me, adults generally don't. But for some reason they like me. And one of the things I really like on your social media, and we'll get to that later, but one of my favorite reels you have is you're walking in the woods and there's a hill in the background. It's tree lined in that, and there must be 40 dogs in there, and there's a path, and some are running around, and some are coming, and you're calling names, which is amazing that they already know their names, because I know you name a lot of them, coming their names, coming out of the things, coming down, and it's like this whole community that they all kind of get along, which is, I think, pretty rare. I mean, maybe it's not rare based on your experience, but getting all these dogs to really have different personalities and get along, because they all look like they're having a great time. And there must be 30 or 40 dogs in that thing. So, hats off to you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's way more than 30 or 40. I think I know what video you're
The
talking
one
about,
thing
but
is been that one video, I know that, but it's just the
yeah,
one I
yeah.
can see.
But
So
yeah, man, I mean, they're not just having a great time, they're having a healthy time. Like they're doing, I don't think there's anything further apart between a Shih Tzu and a wolf. But at one point, these were wolves, and all of these dogs running through the forest. They have 240 acres to explore and become their natural, to listen to their natural instincts and all the different smells. It's like it's really beautiful. Like what I've noticed about our dogs, they live long. Like they have this longevity here. They're healthy. Sure, they get their scratches and things happen, and hip dysplasia, but ultimately to have, like, I'll give you a great example. And this really sucks, but I have this dog named Mildred, um, who I rescued 3 years ago, and she was just completely neglected. Like I'd never seen a more neglected dog in my life. The people who had her are some of the worst people on the planet. Who I can't even fathom being that way, but really just left her in their backyard on cement to just rot away with no food or water. And I'm not just saying this. If we got her not just a day later, if we got her 6 hours later, she wouldn't have survived. She had to go right to the vet, and she was there for 2 weeks, and they didn't think she was going to make it. So we got her and completely rehabilitated her. Her healthy weight was 150 pounds. When we found her, she was 50 pounds.
Oh my God.
An English Mastiff, and just so neglected. I mean, her fur and everything, it was just all so bad. Now, she had gotten perfectly healthy, and for the past 3 years, she has been the light of my life in many ways, and just so important to me. And her story is just so amazing, because it just teaches you the resilience and all this. She just teaches you everything that makes dogs so beautiful. And I just found out that she has this really aggressive cancer. I was supposed to go to Oklahoma next week and Chicago for my speaking tour. I do these speaking engagements all over the country, and I canceled it because I can't imagine not being with her during this time. It was a very difficult decision, but
Yeah.
I say that to you because, you know, we have rescued over 700 dogs here, and she's the first. And I know it was because of the neglect, but she's the first dog to get to get cancer, to get that level of illness that is leading to her demise. Now, we've taken a lot of hospice dogs here who peacefully spent their last days here. But the point of my story is this experience of this freedom, it is so healthy for them. They live longer. They don't get sick. They get it's just so magical. It's like I can't explain it, but the fact that Mildred had this magical 3 years of her life here, it just shows you the beauty that freedom can give a dog. And it's so important to have that freedom for yourself.
Sure.
We have these jobs where we think that we're stuck. We have all these things that we feel like we have to do it. And if you're able to change your perspective to remember the truth, which is you're choosing to do it, you are free to choose whatever you want, to do whatever you want. You are making choices. You don't have to. There's a beautiful gift in that I think is so good for you mentally and physically.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt about that. I wanted to ask you a question because I want to talk about Lily's Lighthouse, what you're doing, because I think it's really cool. But as we talk about that, is Lily the Saint Bernard? Is that named after your Saint Bernard that you had?
Yeah, yeah. Lily was and always will be my heart dog. She's a huge reason why I started Asher House Wellness, which is my health company for humans and pets. It's a CBD company that genuinely saved her life. And yeah, she was my Saint Bernard, who I had for 7 years. She passed away at the age of 12 years old and was just the most important dog in my life. And I miss her like I can't even put into words. And to honor her, we built a huge facility called Lily's Lighthouse, where we are building out these like suites, these bedrooms for dogs. So when dogs first come in to the sanctuary, if they're coming in from a shelter or a rescue, they have to be quarantined for at least 2 weeks in case they have any sort of illness or anything like that. So a lot of times quarantine facilities can be pretty scary and kind of dark and just not the most inviting, environment, where Lily's Lighthouse is like basically being at the Four Seasons. They have all of this land and a beautiful area to decompress and to get better before being introduced into the pack.
Well, one is the quarantine, but the other part is, they probably have some emotional trauma. So I think it's really smart to have like a step by step integration process. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important, and it's a great place for people. Like when I say people, I mean staff. Excuse me, to kind of get to know the dogs too before being into the pack and seeing if they have any either health or behavior issues.
Right. And so, since we're here talking about that, you're on the second phase of it, and you're trying to raise capital for that. So, just can you talk about that for people? Listen, we're going to get into more of that stuff at the end, but since we're here, can you bring that up just a little bit?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing it up. That's really nice of you. You didn't have to do that. And yeah, Lily's Lighthouse. We're on phase 2 right now, and phase 2 is those indoor suites. They're indoor and outdoor suites, so the dogs can have a at-home environment. So these suites are like mini bedrooms, and it'll give them access to both indoor and outdoor. And right now, we're running a campaign on our website, theasherhouse.com. If you scroll down, even past donate, you'll see it says Lily's Lighthouse Phase 2, and you could donate directly towards that campaign, which would be extremely meaningful to me and to obviously our entire organization.
It's funny. There's a friend of mine who's a vet here in town because I know a lot of the vets because of the stem cell thing, and she has a boarding facility at her facility that she has, and she has TVs in their suites.
Yeah, that's what we want to get to as well. Actually, that's so awesome.
Really?
Yeah, the only reason that part isn't a priority to us
Well, of course not.
is because the dogs, like even at Lily's Lighthouse, they're outside. In the boarding, a lot of people don't want to. It's good to give them a TV because a lot of people don't want their dogs like being loose with other dogs, and they're very worried about something happening, which obviously can happen at boarding facilities. With us, the dogs would rather be in a 50-acre field than watch TV. And that, so we kind of are very big on getting the dogs outside and getting them integrated into the pack as soon as we can.
Well, what I want to do, and I still want to talk about some of your other products, but just for the last part about when we're not going to be 100% off at Asher House, but what's other than the phase two of Lily's, what's the future plans like? Far ahead, what are you thinking?
There's a lot, because I think about a lot of things of what I want to accomplish. The current, I moved out of after my pack life. My pack life really put us on the map, and it just made a lot of both people and other rescues reach out to us to help them with their pets and their animals. And I was very much a yes man for a long time in my life, and I wanted to help everybody and help every animal. And by doing that, we quickly outgrew our very first sanctuary, and we're actually just sold it. And I now live in Salem, Oregon, at 240 acres, and we've put millions of dollars into this sanctuary in just 2.5 years, and we've created something that has never been done before. And for me, the future is really to inspire other people to, whether it's animal rescue or people rescue or whatever it is, but to inspire other people to do good work, to add value, to live their purpose, to not be a keyboard warrior, like to get out there and take action and live a life worth living of purpose and value. For the sanctuary itself, I just want to keep building an amazing team. It really takes, to accomplish anything, you can't do it yourself. And for me, it took a while to realize that. And I just want to hire and attract the best people, which is why we opened up our sister location, which is New Life Asher House, where two amazing people run it who have 20 years of being founders and executive directors of their animal shelter. And now, we were lucky enough to be able to give them their own sanctuary to be able to rescue even more animals. And I want to be able to keep doing that as we grow and as we're able to.
So, like feeder sanctuaries in different places. Does it have to be in Oregon or just other places?
Other places, but we're not there yet. Like we don't have the funds nor the time to just like give someone an animal sanctuary in Florida. But I what I want to do is have it to where we have nothing to do with it, right? Where we're not financially responsible, but we can set someone up for success and give them the tools and resources that they need in order to be successful.
Like a starter kit?
Exactly, like a starter kit without a check.
Yeah. Well, that's what I kind of meant. So, where is this other one? Is that in Oregon as well?
Yeah, it's only 30 minutes from us. It's beautiful. It's 140 acres. They have 40 dogs there.
Okay, cool.
It's really, really beautiful. And for here, we don't only have dogs. We have 30 horses. We have a couple dozen pigs and llamas and alpacas and so many other animals. And our newest residents are these wolf hybrids that came from
I saw that.
a confiscation situation in Tacoma, Washington, and we're not there yet because it's going to be a huge financial input, but it's going to be beautiful. We want to have a wolf hybrid sanctuary by the end of next year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to give a shout out for and let you do the shout out because I know you just recently got a big sponsor with Raising Cane. I mean, might as well put him there because I thought that was really cool. There's one really close to my house as an FY.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
They're so fantastic. I cannot even tell you how awesome they are. When I was there, I was able to speak to Todd Graves. He is such a smart guy, such a cool dude, like one of the most successful people in the country, top 150 successful people in the country. And you could see why. Like he takes such good care of his people. He has this beautiful family. And it was just a dream come true to be able to partner with somebody like him, and obviously a company/organization like theirs. They gave us a $100,000 donation, which is just a total game changer.
Yeah.
That type of money can really make a difference for a rescue. And just to give you an idea, our campaign. So for Lily's Lighthouse for the suites, it's $275,000 for all of the suites. There's 30 inside, 30 outside, and look at what that $100,000 donation can do to that. So it's just beyond helpful.
Yeah, and when I read that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is, I mean, I think anybody that's helping animals, no matter what, whether it's you or somebody who's donating like they did, should get credit and get it publicly announced. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to bring it up for you.
Yeah, and they do it for the right reasons. So you could just tell they're good people,
Yeah.
and everybody there who helped us, who facilitated the event of receiving the check, everyone was just a 10 out of 10. It's if you're gonna get chicken fingers, that's the place to go.
Well, like I said, there's literally one maybe 3/4 of miles from my house.
Have you been to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, they really nailed it. Like that's an insane chicken tender.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My son loves them too. So now let's talk about some of the other things you're doing as we're running out of time. I know you got Underdog and you've got your CBD company. And I think I saw some other deal. You had like the salmon oil thing too. Whatever it is, let's talk about all that.
Because of Lily, I started a for-profit company. It's my personal company called ASHER House Wellness, where we sell CBD, which is amazing for anxiety, for hip dysplasia, so many things, especially skin and the coat, the fur. But yeah, we sell hip and joint supplements, allergy chews, multivitamins for dogs, and then we also have a human line for human supplements. And my goal for Asher House Wellness is to bring people and their pets together through wellness, is to get people healthy and active so that they can also keep their pets healthy and active so they can both live energetic and loving lives together. So Asher House Wellness is big for me. Underdog, when I was traveling around the country visiting animal shelters, what I always used to joke about is that there was just as many energy drinks around the shelter than there were dogs. And it was really important for me to create a healthy and clean energy drink. And that's why I became a co-founder of Underdog. It's an energy drink that's 100% natural, no added coloring, no added flavoring, just all natural caffeine with lion's mane to help people stay focused and sharp. And it's a brand new company. We just started it, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Well, it's a great name, first off. I love the name. I'm all about names.
Thank you, man.
It really is.
It's a good one.
So before we finish, what have we left out? Is there anything else we can always do a follow-up episode, but is there anything that I left out or that you want to get out there for everybody to do that before we get to your new favorite joke in a minute?
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the joke, and just be awesome. Like if you're listening to this, you matter. Like you can simply just add value by making someone smile, by being kind. You don't have to like a lot of people tell me, "Can I have 20 minutes of your time? I want to start an animal sanctuary." It's like if you really wanted to start an animal sanctuary, you wouldn't need 20 minutes of my time. You would be getting after it. So just if you have a dream, if you have a vision, just go for it. And if you're not going to go for it, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to people around you. Just add value and you'll see the beautiful things that happen. In a world where there's so much negativity and toxic energy, dude, you don't have to be like that. Don't give into that. You don't have to react. Don't be reactive. Respond with love and grace and good energy. And that is the way to live a life worth living. And that's it.
Well, that's awesome. So let's do the joke thing. And so, for everybody that's listening, if you've listened before, this is a joke that you're going to cringe at. But for you guys, as I say every time, if you've got grandchildren, your children, your nieces, nephews, even your grandmother, or if you want to be on the show and tell a silly animal joke, please email me. And I promise you, I'll gladly have you on. And if you have listened in the past, I've had some other guests on. But email me at mkyle@thefurrealpodcast.com. So here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, so I rescued a dog from the blacksmith. Guess what happened? As soon as I got home, he made a bolt for the door.
That's good stuff.
Now you realize why you should have told a joke.
Hey, man, that one's better than mine. I'll tell you that.
Anyways, most importantly, hey, Lee, thanks so much for being on the show. I think you're doing wonderful things, and I know you're really busy. I mean, you've got 100 things going on, and taking the time really means a lot to me. So really, I appreciate being on the show.
It's my pleasure, man. And thank you. Thanks for putting out good content. The world needs it. You're doing great work. You have a great audience, and I appreciate you having me on. It was a pleasure. It was great to talk to you.
Well, thank you so much. And then for everybody else that there's out there listening, keep following everything. The more you do it, obviously, it helps me get better guests. But most importantly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.